chat, because we haven't had them in like a year and a half, right? If this is your first water cooler chat, please know that you are welcome to pop in and chat. You are welcome to unmute and ask questions. And often the best thing is when we all are having a conversation, often with a lot of people in writing, because the people on these water cooler chats tend to be introverts. We do have our new marketing management team, Scrivener Solutions. They're here as the Stop Pile Analytics Group logo, because they don't want to put their ego in front of ours. So I appreciate it. So are you all ready to get started? As you know, we're being recorded. I'm going to pop up chat. Okay. So we're going to present on this topic, but your job is to interrupt me with lots of questions. Greg and I both love to talk about things that we're passionate about. And we're going to lose you to a client, right, Greg? That's what you said?
Yes, unfortunately at 2:30 I have a client meeting, so yeah.
I like it for us. All right. So go ahead, go ahead and share where you are calling in from. I'm in upstate New York, where our 1.5 feet of snow became 2 feet over the last couple of days and has settled down. But we did have negative temperatures yesterday. I felt like I was back in Rockford, Illinois in my undergraduate days. Okay, and we're going to talk about the donor journey, because part of the, somebody from San Francisco.
I just saw flashing across someone went to Rockford. Well.
Yes, Linda, say hi to Linda.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for those of you going through snow, I don't want to say it, but I am out in Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah. He also sleeps later than I do. No, he doesn't. Greg has to get up at 5 in the morning because most of his clients are over here.
Yes.
All right. So when we talk about the customer journey, right, that's the thing that marketing guys are talking about now. And if you go to Marketing Sherpa, you can actually read articles on the customer journey, right? And this is one of the ways that they talk about it. How do we get somebody to notice our brand, think about our brand, interact with our brand, and then not only continue to interact with our brand, buy a new Coca-Cola every day, excuse me, or in my case, the polar seltzer that's causing me to have to hesitate for my speaking, and then advocate for us and sell for us, right? Now, if you translate this into fundraising, what do you get? Well, in retail, we used to walk around a store and take the things we liked, right? But now we're actually have to look at an online catalog. It makes a bigger selection, but we can't touch and feel, okay? We used to see ads in our Sunday paper and along with coupons, and now they're all over the place, including like in our grocery carts, playing along the digital display on my radio, all kinds of stuff. Okay, so when we look at the customer journey, we're not going from awareness, we're going to engagement. We're talking about engagement now. As soon as alumni relations or membership or what is it called? Public affairs, communications, public relations. The person has to do everything and is a one-person shop and they're saying, why can't you raise bigger gifts? That one, public relations. As soon as we get into that, we're looking at engagement because now we're online, we're in social media, we're on our watches, we're doing texts, okay? So, I mean, I'm still trying to warp from, email is the newfangled way of communicating to email is the old-fashioned way of communicating, according to my niece, who thinks that I should be going on Snapchat, all right? And then annual giving became direct marketing because it went from a letter or a phone call to a letter, a phone call, a text, an email, a web page, a crowdfund, right? And so what do we do with all that, okay? The other problem that we run into, actually, I'm going to grab a cloth. What this cloth does is reduce the echo because I probably sound like I'm talking to you from a tunnel. Okay, so what our prospects expect, because they're getting it from Amazon and from Best Buy and from all kinds of other places, is they want us to communicate with them the way that they communicate with us. So we can't just write a direct mail in September and see what happens anymore. We have to talk to them the way they spoke to us. Okay. They also want their preferences remembered. So it's more than just if I prefer to be Miss, not Ms. It's also that I prefer to look at stuff on your website. So you got to make sure your website is up there. And that's the extreme personalization piece of it. Right? So it's not just, hello, Marianne, you know, you've been a member of ours for the last 40 years, and wouldn't you like to give 500 this year? It's more like, hello, Marianne, thank you so much for coming to our event where. Okay. And if you're like, look, I really want to do that kind of work, take a look at the guys at Gravity. Write the word gravy and then add a TY. Take a look at them because they're AI custom content. Okay. They also want 24/7 service. And even if it's not, I thought I'd shut my phone down. Even if it's not a person, I still want a robot to talk to me. Now in the pandemic, right? So today I had to go to 4 different stores before I found crazy glue. So I'm getting that there's not always somebody there, and I'm getting my materials are not always there, right? But I still expect to be able to be looking at something in the middle of the night, asking questions and having a machine answer me back. So how are we shifting to that? Okay, so let's take a look at engagement. My buddy Linda, this is her job. She gets to engage me. Poor thing. Okay, so the question is how do you build your content by the response that you're looking for? Okay, and this is the piece, right? First thing is that I read it in a book, The Race to Relevance. The book came out in like 2010 about how social media is going to blow up everything. Andrea, I don't understand gas pumps. I just saw gas pumps. Is that where you're at? Oh, I expect gas pumps to be running 24/7. Oh, for advertising. I'm sorry. It's the first time I've looked over at chats. Yes. You stand at a gas pump and it's like, wouldn't you like to come in for some coffee? I feel like I'm at the movies, you know, with a dancing cup. It's very cute. Okay. So here's the thing, right? So in the book, Race for Relevance, one of the things the guy mentioned is that we're no longer in charge of our content. If I want to talk about my local habitat as a trustee or as a board of director of my local habitat, I can put that out there without it going through them. And I can say whatever I want about them without it going through them, which means I can be rude, right? And that becomes the problem, right? And the whole, you know, I don't know if you have friends on Facebook who are like, I don't know why people have to be so cruel. And then that's all they say, right? But people can talk smack about United Airlines. Okay, but the piece for you is how do you automate your content to manage responses or to rebuild, to go back to responses, right? So if I get an automated response that says to me, thank you for writing to us and we'll be back to you in 24 hours, I'd better hear back within 24 hours, right? But if I get a response that says, hey, we love that you visited the site, right? Then that's just, I know that it's a robot, but at least I know somebody thought to make the robot do that. Okay. We also need to push our content to all the channels. One of the things that happens is the communications people in your organization, wherever you are, if you're in healthcare, if you're in a museum, or if you're in a religious organization, your communications people are setting a different theme than your annual fund people. And we have to stop that because they have to talk to each other, because to me, it's all one place. If I hear from Memorial Sloan Kettering, then I hear from Memorial Sloan Kettering. It's not their annual fund, which is different from their cancer department, which is different from their public relations. It's one place. If I talk to anybody at Memorial Sloan Kettering, I expect that I'm talking to everybody at Memorial Sloan Kettering. And that's the value that I learned when I was a consultant for DataTel. A person who speaks to me speaks to the company, which means I had better pass the information along, right? So one of the things we're doing at Stop Pal, now that we're working with a formal marketing firm, is we actually had to pick our branded colors. We had to pick our branded font, right? And that seems, that's one of those meetings that nobody wants to go to, but everybody wants to have happened, right? Like, which computer system do we want? But once we do that, it's always the same look and feel. Okay, and I'll I may, you know, Linda, I have to admit, I mentioned Rockford University a lot. So you're just here, that's all. But if you see Linda Sandquist and you look behind her, that color purple is very special to me because it's where I went to college. That's my color purple. And you'll see I'm wearing something very similar. Okay, so that color needs to be everywhere. And frankly, one of the more clever, I don't know if it's a current president or former president, used to sign the thank you letters in that color purple. That's the kind of thoughtfulness that goes into good engagement, right? And everybody's, oh, you know, what about, but when you're the person that says, what about this? I mean, if you have an OCD enough person that takes care of this stuff for you, that person will irritate the daylights out of you until you notice that people are not complaining, that they feel disjointed. They don't feel like the message was organized, right? You only hear about it when it's wrong, you know what I mean? Or when it feels off. But when it doesn't feel off is when it's running beautifully, okay? The next thing is you do want to notice when your prospects are proud of you. And so you'll see that color purple again from my alma mater. And then also Southern New Hampshire University. Now I was there when they went from being New Hampshire College to Southern New Hampshire University. We made a lot of fun of it, but it's still I'm still on there connected to them because that's where I got my MBA. All right. So if I'm proud of that, I'm going to put that up there. Okay. And if I am proud of my association with, oh, this is a great comment from Deborah. This is exactly why our communications and advancement departments merged a few years back. Everyone is on message now. Exactly. Oh, and she hadn't even met them before. She hadn't found their offices before. That reminds me of a Grace Murray Hopper joke, right? You're the Pentagon. You're always moving people's offices, but their phone numbers never change. So you had to call them every day and ask them where they were now. But you see over here on the right, this is a golf tournament. And I don't know if you've noticed me, I'm in the drink cart, right? Because I was the president that year of the habitat that this thing was founding. Am I proud to be in that photo? Absolutely. And I'm proud to be in the photo where I'm learning how to hammer, and I'm proud to be in the photo where I'm putting up the wall. And so that goes on my LinkedIn page. And it goes on all my social media. And it should be smart marked. It should be smart coded so that Habitat can pick that up. But I'm the analyst for Habitat. Okay. Okay, so Ruthie is mentioning she's worked where you guys have the communications and development marketing were right on top of each other, but didn't necessarily work together directly. And I think that that's been most of the situation that I've been in. Okay. So here's the thing. Of course, we're an analytics firm, so we're going to talk about analysis, okay? And so what you're looking at is an example of a product called IBM Modeler, and it has something called a text miner. It's text mining for surveys is what they call it, but I use it for everything. And what it did was it took this post content and it counted how many likes were. I connected how many likes were from this post content. And this was for Habitat, my local Habitat, because they let me use their stuff, right? And so, you know, the Habitat is obviously more prevalent among a bunch of likes. So is HTTPS. Here's a link. You can engage. So people like to engage. But you see join, road, structural engineering, and then volunteers, right? Turns out that that words that post content, the software is called IBM Modeler. But you can also get text analytics for the social sciences by SPSS. And then, thanks, Greg. And then stay with me to talk about a product called Weka and R, or ask me later, Andrea. I don't remember if it's in this presentation. I practiced it yesterday, but I've done things since then. But one thing we found out in our work with this client, with Habitat, using their data to experiment with new tools, is that the word participation did not get as many reactions or likes or comments as the word commitment. So the annual fund letter the following year included the word commitment and not participation, right? Including when we invite women to Women Build, right? All right, so I saw John Thompson. I'll make sure I have his last name up here. John Thompson, a National Children's Hospital at the time, right, did this brilliant presentation at AASP. And if you want to learn more about this kind of mixy-uppy thing and how to analyze this stuff, You want to get into you want to get into AASP and go to their presentations. They do some cool stuff over there, okay? And this is the donor journey right here. Receives an email, here's a radio ad, visits an organic search, clicks a banner ad, makes a gift. So John actually advertised for gifts to his hospital. Can you imagine advertising for gifts to your organization, right? Wouldn't that be cool if you could do that? Thanks, Therese. Okay. And then he discovered that he had an advertising engagement plan based on it. Okay. So he figured out, he linked his mobile and a desktop behavior, right? That's my way of saying push the content to all channels, right? If it's coming to me in an email, the theme at least should come to me in a text. Okay. He did segment-based calculations. I prefer email, somebody else gets a letter, somebody else, you just have to accommodate all the different people. And then he did his marketing automation. Of course, we have to have AI in this presentation because we're an analytics firm. So here's something you can do, right? So one thing that you can do yourself is you can define engagement for what it is. So we had a client who just called us and said, can you tell us what an engaged alumni is, or an alumnus, right? So we had to do it. And Greg and I mean, Greg, of course, came up with genius stuff, right? But we were the ones that had to do it. So how many direct marketing pieces have I received? Well, that's not me. Activity means that I went to go to an event, right? How many affiliations do I have? Am I an alumna, a parent, a member, a theater ticket holder, right? How many committees have I been on? And then action type, the action type, I made a gift, okay? And then how many gift clubs, right? So one is that I participate as a donor. The other is that I participate as a recognition level donor. Greg, you remember helping me figure all this out?
Yeah. This was all in Modeler as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember trawling through this data. In fact, yes. and
you don't want to remember.
I was about to say this is the sort of thing that it is a great first step just to know what you have. Mm-hmm. And to see the measures of this. When you see it in screen, it really gives you an idea of how you're engaging. Yeah, that's
right. Because what if something is missing?
Yeah.
Right. So then you can actually do, if you want to study naive Bayes is what I use for this, right? You can actually do a behavior chain. What is the behavior that gets somebody? So this is the behaviors that make somebody go down in likelihood to make a gift. These are the behaviors that make somebody go up in their likelihood to eventually make a gift or to engage further, right?
Yeah, then this is sometimes also called decision trees.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, if you're familiar with decision trees, you can use this. Yep. So now notice that we did this for a client, so we had to make pretty pictures, but you can also do this as a flow chart if you don't want to spend 2 days doing this. Okay. But the other way to think about this is what moves the relationship forward and what moves the relationship backward. And there was a white paper that I read 2002 where I got all excited and I want to learn how to do this. And it's on Markov chains if you feel like geeking out, right? But this is really what moves the relationship forward. So forward is I attend an event. That's a forward motion. The other forward is I tell you that I cannot attend an event, right? I recently turned down an event request. Okay. Forward is I make a gift, but also I add an affiliation, I join a committee, but other forwards can include I clicked on social media, I went to your website, I reshared one of your posts, right? If you are watching me, and that's the hard part, right? And that the hard part is connecting the social media, my social media account with me in your database, okay? Backward is I didn't attend the event, I quit a committee, I stopped giving, right? So that's backward. Backward could also be I moved to a new address and I didn't tell you, right? Because that means that I don't like you enough to tell you. How are you guys doing? Okay. But let's talk about movement, right? Because this is the piece where we're looking at what is the donor journey. And this is Greg built this chart for a client, and then we anonymized it all over the place to not be the client's data.
Yeah.
But this is the piece, right? So if we're measuring, Greg, sorry.
Oh, go on. Yeah, go.
Okay.
I can describe it out. I can mention after you describe it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're measuring is I ask you for money on one of these channels, right? These 4 direct marketing channels. This is how much I'm getting for my average gift.
Mm-hmm.
I ask you again if you didn't give. Then I ask you a third time and fourth. This is the what about now thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I was going to say was this was a real eye opener for the client that I did this for. You know, they were of the opinion, well, we just need to send out as many, you know, emails or texts as we can because it's free. And what I showed is essentially not only do you really start losing any interest, especially with the texts, but sometimes you actually start annoying your donors, and so it's you get the equivalent of negative gifts. So yeah, this was a real eye opener for our clients, and I think if you do it at your shop, yeah, you might be surprised at how quickly donors lose interest after the first solicitation.
Yeah, there's some old-fashioned beliefs. I forget the gentleman's name. He had a big fight with somebody just last year. But he's always, you have to send 18 mailings a year. Like, I'm not spending that kind of money. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, Therese, we do look at velocity of giving.
Mm-hmm.
We were the ones that brought that idea to the market. So, yes, I don't know if I have that in here because I thought people got tired of it, but I'm really glad you mentioned it to remind us. Okay. So if you feel like learning naive bays, this is what happens, right? So if the gift came from a solicitation letter, there are almost 1.5 times as often as going to be a donor over a non-donor. Okay. But 4 to 3, right? If you're thinking about it in terms of odds, 2.6 to 1.8. So 3 to 2, 4 to 3, if they open an email. So notice that it takes more emails to get a donor, right? But if they unsubscribe, they're not going to be a donor. Now, what does this mean, right? What this means is if they unsubscribe, that's a clear and obvious signal that they're not going to be a donor because you're showing it in terms of your data. Even if you just did you don't need all this business with the standard deviation and precision and whatnot, you can just say, blah, blah, blah % of the people who unsubscribed did not give 5 or more years afterwards, right? Because as soon as you know that, it reduces the solicitations that you have to do in a year. And also, you just need to leave them alone because they will come back on their own if they want to, right? Okay, and then we see one where if you live in California or New Jersey, go figure California or New Jersey. I think if you're on Southern California, you're on the alien abduction line, right? So I don't know, but that's twice as much, right? So we care a lot about our California and New Jersey people. We might ask them more than the 5 times that we recommended for everybody else. Once you have that, here's a simplified flow chart, right? The engagement gets the assignment. If they unsubscribe from the newsletter, we're just like done. Right? And think about what that does for if you're a college, think about what that does for the US News thing, where you have to, because it's only the people that you solicited. That is your percentage of alumni participation, right? We say, okay, if they're in California, New Jersey, let's send them an email first because it's cheaper and they're more likely to give. And if not, if they don't give, we'll send them direct mail. Right? So if they don't give, we give them direct mail. Everybody else gets direct mail directly. This is very simplified.
Mm-hmm.
Questions or comments? Are you guys having fun? I'm jealous of Tina's bookcase.
Yeah. Wow.
It's not mine? Is that what you just said? You're muted.
It's a Zoom background. It's not mine.
Oh.
I
You
wish.
didn't have to tell us that. Okay. All right. So the other piece about the donor journey is you want to figure out your segmentation. So you're doing all this analytics and this artificial intelligence and machine learning, and just like Therese suggested, the velocity stuff and the rate of increase stuff. How do I like build something that gets me more giving, right? And so this is changed out from a live client exercise. These are not their results, okay? But this is the idea. So here's our California, New Jersey business. The return on investment for direct mail for these guys is 2.73, but for volunteers, it's 240.55. So one thing is it tells us we need to solicit all of our volunteers. The second thing it tells us is we need more volunteers, right? Because something about becoming a volunteer, and then that begs the question, and that is that's the walk. You walk back. Okay, wait. So if I become a volunteer, I'm likely to give 240 times the investment you're putting in me to get a gift out of me. So wait, how do you get me to be a volunteer? And then you're modeling that. And now you're going back one step. And then you're going back, okay, so let's say that the way you get me to be a volunteer is you start off by asking me to be an alumni class agent, or you start off by asking me to be a membership coordinator for one of my favorite stewardship events was the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. A local florist put a carnation on my chair to show everybody that I was a subscriber, right? So be the person who gets to walk the flowers around, or gets to write the note that says, I love you because, and here's a flower. Okay, so if that's it, if that's a primary thing that gets me to become a volunteer, how do I get people to agree to do that? And now I'm walking back to the beginning of my donor journey, right? What was the first thing? Okay, so I distributed flowers. Before that, I was a subscriber. Oh, so before that, so what got me to be a subscriber was I wrote on social media that I loved the content. Okay, so and now I'm back, right? Somebody gave me a gift of a ticket. Now, you're not going to have one answer. You're going to have a lot of answers that fold down into one, super duper volunteer. But you are understanding what the walk is, because the other thing you're understanding is what are the things as I'm walking along in my donor journey, what are the things that kick me out, right? I got a demanding letter from the membership chair telling me that I needed to show up earlier to distribute flowers, and then boop, I'm done. Right? So we did it with email as well. Notice, as Greg commented, we assumed that sending email is free because we think that staff, we can just stretch them as a resource as far as we want,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, nobody takes that into account, I have to say.
Right. So, and that's why we have old photocopiers too. I want you to spend an hour standing at a photocopier fighting with it, because I want that more importantly than responding to emails. Okay. So, so then you can just go ahead and do this piece. And the other thing that it tells you is it says, if this is, if we get no gain from our social media fans, but our social media fans respond, even though they respond less than $1, only 27 cents to $1 that we spend, they respond to direct mail. You wouldn't think it, right? But that's what works. And so you understand that donor journey. You understand social media fan, send them a direct mail piece, see what happens. Okay. And I'm just going to throw this in there because this is Greg. This is one of Greg's brilliant ideas.
I have to leave in a couple minutes, but yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, one of the things we've done with clients is we've used what's called Monte Carlo analysis, and unfortunately, I don't have too much time to describe exactly how Monte Carlo works, but essentially it is a way of determining if you have a number of prospects with certain chances of giving. You can get a range of, 50% of the time we were going to get between this amount and that amount. And it has been an eye-opener for institutions to see, if depending on, a lot of places will add up the amount of prospects value and say, oh, we have X amount of potential gifts. But when we take the percentages from the previous exercise and plug them into Monte Carlo and then plug in this these formulas, if anyone's interested in Monte Carlo, I can send around my last one of my last presentations on it. We plug in these numbers.
I'm giving Greg 60 seconds to explain a complex thing.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah. Especially because, as you saw from the previous slides, a lot of these chances of major gifts or even any gifts are pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
So when you plug them into Monte Carlo, you find that, well, we have $100 million in prospect capacity, but our chances of giving, say our 90% range, possibility of giving is like 500,000 to 1 million. So yeah, that's what we are using it for. And if we can increase those percentages, how much can we increase our potential giving? So.
This is the other thing that this does, and this illustration isn't good enough because illustrating it is just as, I wanted to put it in here in case you want to go learn it, right? But the other thing that it does is if it says that this percentage of the reason that I make a larger gift is because I attended an event, then if you increase the number of events, at what point do you have enough events? That's what this does. So I actually literally in IBM Modeler, I move the slider and it goes, yeah, okay, here it is. Mm-hmm. And then that's enough. And so that's how we did you don't need more than 5 emails. Go ahead.
And thanks for attending, everybody. I've got to go on to our next meeting here, but thank you all, and thanks, Mary, for putting this on.
We'll see you.
I see you.
So once you do all this, you can actually, and I was inspired by Kate Chamberlain at Memorial Sloan Kettering like 15 years ago now. You can forecast your results. This is a feasibility study that we did for a client. This is a sample format from a feasibility study that we did for a client. And it does include economic trends. If you have the client's annual giving year by year, and you have what the S&P 500 was year by year, right? You can peg them and see if there's a relationship. I demonstrated once that the minute the S&P 500 went up over 10,000, we would start getting $1 million gifts where I was working. And I said that to everybody, and they said, yeah, we guessed that too. We're not asking for $1 million gifts right now. And then I sent out the alert when it hit the S&P 500 hit 10,000. Don't you want to be that kind of hero? Like that's like James Bond stuff. You know what I mean? Okay, so when you put it all together, you're actually describing what you want to do with the donor journey. Okay. And so the one thing is who are the clients that we can bring closer to us? Here's the thing to think about. I've had gift officers say to me, when I call people up that haven't engaged with us for 25 years, they say, where have you been? Right? You don't know what someone's fondness is for your organization. If I were in the Girl Scouts in 1972, and I think I was in the Girl Scouts in 1972, then, and the Girl Scouts got in touch with me now, I'd be thrilled to hear from them. I'd be like, you know what? I'm in the Girl Scouts of today is different from them. And, it's the first time I learned how to do this camping and, all that sort of stuff. They don't know. They don't know because they didn't try. But if they segmented me in such a way that they understood that I had that interest, right? And you don't have to worry about what data do you need. There's always data, right? Then that would be something, especially if first time I ever plugged into their social media page, right? Okay, so when you put this all together, you have a suggested solicitation segment. You also have a modeled next step if you want one, based on that flow chart that we talked about. Okay, and how do I figure this stuff out? Right, the way I figure this stuff out. This is an example of machine learning, right? So these are different characteristics, right? So back in the 90s and the early 2000s, when we were all modeling, we would use one tool, linear regression. What makes it go up, right? Now we're figuring out, okay, these are men who behave this way, blah, 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 but the women are different. Okay. And once you say, but the women are different, you have a whole different audience. When we worked with a public television station, we had a membership people. We had people who were interested in the good feeling of being involved in the recognition level program, right? We had people who were invested in the cause, and we had people who wanted to leave something. Those were the segments that we developed, and it looked like this. It wasn't all the same. And one of the things that we demonstrated is that in-kind gift were often followed by, in-kind gift to their auction, were often followed by larger cash gifts. And the client was like, oh, don't bother us with the in-kind stuff. And I'm like, I'm bothering you with the in-kind stuff, right? You want to know that, okay? The other thing you want to know is, where's the donor in her lifetime, right? So one of the studies that I did is, how long have I lived at the same address? How long have I had the same job? You have it in your database, right? If I've stayed in touch with you all along. And what's my giving, right? How long have I been married? How old are my kids? You have all this stuff. It's just doing the right computations to figure out what that stuff looks like, right? And then once you build that, you come up with an efficiency curve that says, this is my level of giving. So up here, wow, wasn't it nice of me to put a key in here? Legend. There's a bunch of lines with nothing in it. I am sorry. So brown was, how long have I had the job? Giving is green. And purple is, how long have I forget what purple is. I'm sorry. Prospect count on the left. Okay. Oh, yeah. How long have I lived in the same address? So you see my giving peaks. 50 years, right? It's time for me to give away my money, right? I've been out for 50 years. And of course, I'm going to show off ensemble modeling. You don't have to build like one set of models. You can actually make them all work together, which is what Amazon does when they try to get you to buy more stuff. So just look at it later. And also, this is the equation piece, right? So here's where I took screening data, and I actually stripped the text from the screening data. And when it had arts, the person's giving would likely go down. But when it did not contain arts, the person's giving would go down. Okay. But when it, do I have any contains? I do not. Okay. But if it does not contain received, then my giving goes up. That's what all this means. In other words, like right now I'm working with a client, and I took all their event data, and there were too many different event codes, and each one was associated with a 2-digit year. And everything was split out too much. So what I did was I took the descriptions of the events and I stripped them into words, and I threw out all the and of and and whatever, and the punctuation. And I said, just associate this with people who are likely to have given to their giving day. This is a similar exercise. What we're doing is we're understanding whether giving day bumps the donor journey or bumps only specific people along the donor journey. Okay. You can also set ask amounts, because ask amount is the donor journey. Amazon has a value on you. They have a lifetime value on you. They have what they think you're going to spend next. And they have what they want you to spend next, which is why you will see $4 offered to you, $3 offered to you, or a set offered to you, all different times. Isn't that creepy? But they did the work, and you can too. Okay, and just remember that when somebody responds to you, you need to measure the response as well. So it's not like the donor said, I'll think about it, and then we took them out of the portfolio, or we took them out of engagement, right? It's the donor said no, so I'm going to move along to something else. Or the donor said no, when do I go back, right? And the when do I go back thing is key. I mean, Greg talked about donor fatigue, just leave me alone, right? The when do I go back is actually something that is worth, if you're a modeler, it's something that's worth modeling. Okay. The donor journey includes the major gifts donor journey. How many people are you going to give to the gift officer? How many people will a gift officer say should go to cultivation? How many people will make it to solicitation before they say, leave me alone, right? And then how many people give? And if you do this with all of your programs, annual giving, major gifts, leadership giving, and plan giving, you'll get a really good picture. When I thought about becoming a life insurance agent, you know, because I'm like that, right? They told me it takes 10 phone calls to get 4 visits to get 1 policy. They knew it. They knew their numbers, right? We can know ours too. And frankly, if I have 25 suspects to get 3 gifts, how do I get this down to 20 so that my gift officers' portfolios can get smaller? Because they don't need to keep hiring more and more gift officers. They actually need to hire more and more researchers, right? To bring in more money. Ruthie's calling me creepy. So how do we increase the probability of a major gift? Well, the first thing is we say to ourselves, this is what is the signal that moves the relationship forward, the signal that moves the relationship back, right? So if of your entire constituency, only 2.5% give $100,000 a year, who are the people like, how do we get that percentage higher? Well, you know, once we had average giving of $307 per year, their signal to us, then we go to 27% are going to give 100,000 or more. And if they tell us that they have a relationship, here's my spouse and here's my child, here's my spouse and here's my uncle, right? Then it goes to 47%. Isn't this cool? This is all done with nifty, handy dandy modeling tools. How am I doing for time? Okay. All right. And this is where, if you're a prospect researcher, this is where you get to play, right? I call it tattletaling because we're getting into that business more and more. But the thing is like, did you ask for everything? And this is the fighting the discount chain, right? So the gift officers come after me and say that you rated this prospect too high because you can't prove it. So I rate the prospect down a little bit. Then the gift officer asks for less than that because she's timid, right? We don't have to have that. Okay. We can say, you asked for less than this person was willing to give. And the problem is, if you don't hit the sweet spot in the ask amount, right, you can make the donor go backwards in the journey, right? If you come to me and you ask me to make a gift that's far too big for what I can do, then you're not paying attention. You don't know me. So get out, right? But if you ask me for gifts that's too low, then you think very little of me. So here's your check, but see you later, right? I'm chuckling because Susan is standing up for Ruthie for calling me creepy. She's saying Amazon is creepy. Amazon is creepy. But I'm teaching her the same tools. And the other piece is you want to also understand the gift officer has to understand the donor journey, right? So we say, how many months are you going to allow a gift officer to have a prospect in her portfolio? I've spoken to clients who had prospects in their portfolio for 22 years, and they told me because we can't find new ones. I said, yeah, right? So, you know, it's just, well, hang on a little bit more, but you don't know. My alma mater has been cultivating me since 2011, and they haven't gotten that $25,000 endowment gift they want. Not yet, but the cultivation goes on, right? Picture all my contact reports. The other thing is you can plan your resources as well. So if somebody says, well, we need more gift officers, not more researchers or not more gift processors, we do have a client, Greg's primary client, who they don't have the gift processing time for all the brilliant new things they're doing. So they have to bring that in, right? This is one of the tools that we have, and this is in our campaign analytics online course that says this is how you can figure out how many gift officers you need. If your pool is 150 people, 150 prospects per gift officer, and you figure out how long it takes to solicit somebody from assignment to end result, whether it's a refusal or a gift, deferrals don't matter, right? Then and this one is 158 days, which is silly, right? Then how many prospect cycles does a gift officer go through over a year? I'm doing this as a campaign because it's from our campaign course. And how many people can you all reach in a timeline? Thank you, Linda. The other thing is the donor journey is, you know, the whole thing with the bombarding me with advertising is that I have to know you now before you can ask me to buy something, right? Actually, I was on the phone with my car dealership telling them my hood latch, you know, Brock, I'm screaming and yelling. And I didn't know the guy. If I was talking to the service woman that I always worked with, I would have been much nicer, but I was pumped with adrenaline. So how do you identify the relationships? Now, this is a brilliant picture of my CrossFit gym. I don't know if you can see me in the middle. I'm behind the purple line here. But what are the relationships? And when we do relationship mapping, right? When we do a relationship mapping, we say, oh, you know, Marianne's in CrossFit with this guy. Oh, that's a woman. Okay, this woman, right? So we're going to ask this woman to ask us, let us talk to Marianne. Well, if this woman is smart, she would say, yeah, she didn't really hang out with me in the changing room. So, and actually, I've only once seen a note on somebody's record that says, do not sit at a dinner next to Susie Q. Okay. But the question is, what are the relationships? Right. And it's more than capital IQ can get you. I mean, think about it. There is in our presentation on the relationship, and I'll have to admit this to Linda, there's a picture of the two of us in one of our dorm photos. That's a relationship, right? Once you have these relationships, you're going to go buy Note Excel. Nobody's gone to sleep yet. Thank you for that. But we're going to buy Note Excel and you're going to map the relationships. You're going to figure that out. One of the things that a gentleman at the law school at Cornell figured out is that it's not a person with a lot of friends. See, this is a person with a lot of friends who made larger gifts. It's the person who has a lot of friends who have a lot of friends. This person is a connector, right? Have you read the, not the Popcorn Report. What is that one? Touch Points. No. Oh, I'm asking you if you read a book and I can't remember the name of it. What's the name of that book that has the Maven and the Connector and the Advocate? There's something else. Anyway, someone will, Tipping Point. Thank you, Amy. The tipping point, right? That's the point, right? This person is a key player in the tipping point. You wanna have dinner with him. Okay. What is that expression for new trustees? You're going to give or you're going to get, right? You're going to give yourself or you're going to get friends who give. Okay. This is just use an API to find who your fans are. You don't know, especially if you're a cause-related organization. Habitat, we had no idea who our fans were. None. But we're getting a bigger picture now. I mean, the people who love to come to our annual cookie walk, which we can't have anymore, right? We changed it to an online gingerbread event, right? Those people, we don't know, right? And then how do we identify who these people are, right? So we're used to, like we're working with a couple of YWCAs now and a couple of community centers. We're used to assigning people to their point of entry. If I put my child in the community center for training, then that's my whole relationship. But what if I bought a ticket to the swimming pool? Now the swimming pool is another relationship. This gentleman, he goes to baseball events because he gets heavily, cultivated for those, but he's also a season ticket holder for the theater. And then he puts baseball on his LinkedIn page, but not the theater. So what do we think, right? And there was another brilliant young man at Cornell who figured out what percentage of my giving goes to a certain college or unit that says that that's my interest. Right. And you know how we're all talking about interest codes and we're going to build them one person at a time, or we're going to assume them. Right. I say you can figure it out by understanding what I give to or what I respond to. And then you're moving me along the customer journey or the donor journey. Right. You also need to find me where I am. If you want to talk to me these days, you're going to hang out with me on Discord. But I don't recommend that you hang out with me on Discord because all these geeks pop in and ask you to buy NFTs, right? Engineers, email, actors. If I do research on actors, it's IMDb and Playbill, right? Warren Buffett doesn't hang out with any of these things. And his administrative assistant doesn't hang out with any of these things. That's when you have to find a way to connect to him. And by the way, you have to go through Bill Gates. So call Bill, okay? All right, so here's some other notes. How am I doing for time? Good. All right, so the most important thing is, how do you suck in their reaction to your content, and how do you suck in their content around your organization? And then how do you measure it? And that's why I keep talking about text mining. How do you understand it? How do you measure it? How do you compile the interest? Okay. What do I give to? What do I respond to? What do I click on? What do I like? Right? You don't, Peter Wiley was talking 10, 15 years ago. You can't measure web clicks, right? But now we have Evertrue and what's the other one? Sprout Social. And then there's like Flowers and Fruit companies, right? If you know another one that's very good, where they track social media and then tell you and actually connect to your person in your database. That's the piece that I don't know how to do without paying somebody, right? Then that's really key, because then you can find out what I'm talking about. Okay. And you want to think about time of life. It's not just Marianne is a non-donor. It's Marianne is a non-donor who's 59 years old, right? And is 2 years away from her 30th reunion, right? And is and has and is noted in her donor search record as giving to her local habitat. So what do we say to that? Right? That builds a picture. You're not going to be able to do it one person at a time. I only know one client who has fewer than 5,000 records, right? But you will be able to do it by doing some of these studies. Mapping, everybody wants to show you their mapping software. What if you did the mapping software that said, here, where are our constituents? And then where are our donors? And then where are people who tune into the, the trustee's message? Okay. Last bit of reassurance. Can I be replaced? Right? And here's my answer. Don't let the consulting firm come in and say you don't need a research team if you use just our AI and screening. First of all, gift officers don't get screening. They don't get it. Oh, typo, sorry. They don't get it. They say, well, this is wrong, so this whole thing is wrong, because they're not data people. We're data people. All right. Questions or comment? Oh, Terry says Salesforce Social Studio. I didn't hear about that. Yes, we're making a recording. We'll put it up on the website and we'll invite you to come take a look. Yep. And we're going to have it on YouTube too, which is fabulous. We have a couple of minutes left. Did you come here and not get something you wanted to come here for? Did I put you in a coma talking about my nifty geeky stuff? I'm looking over here is my where I see you all. Thank you, Ruben. Somebody ask a question though.
I'll ask something.
Thank you.
Even though I'm pretty sure I know where to start this, I'm guessing there might be folks in the room who don't, so I'll just ask you anyhow. For a smaller org and or a smaller shop, I shouldn't say the org is small, where maybe you don't have the staffing, where might someone want to start as far as tracking all those different data points? Like if they don't already yet have it in their database, where would you recommend?
So the first thing is the data that's in your database is where I would start. So where do people live, right? Do you have any sense of what, oh, you're getting votes. You're getting upvoted. That's brilliant. So where do they live? How long have they been associated with your organization? What is their average giving per year of connection to you? What was their entry point? Entry point is a big one, right? So I bought a duck for the duck race. Nobody has duck races anymore because it's environmentally bad, right? But I bought a duck for the duck race, and then I've been with you ever since, and I've given you $100. And there's no record of me having been visited. But you know what? You just did a screening, and I'm worth $1 million gift, right? So you find the person who ran the duck race, you know? So what is the entry point? The other is that slide that I had like way at the start where with the just measure what the engagement was. So I'm showing you lots of techniques because I want to turn everybody in the world into a data scientist, but this may be more than you want to do, right? But this slide right here is something anybody at any organization size can do. What's engagement? What do people do? And what do we track, right? So if somebody says, well, we only track events on Excel sheets, now you have a reason to track events. I did have an assignment, Ruthie, to figure out which events the organization could drop to save money and not have any impact. That's a good exercise to have, especially if you've had gala, you know. And it's unfortunate that the answer was if they go to reunion and one other event, it doesn't matter what the second event is, they're more engaged. And my poor director of alumni relations didn't get the answer that she needed, but she got a clear and obvious answer. So this is where I would start here.
Awesome.
Other questions or comments? So Ruben is right. Implementing is a real challenge, right? The first thing, though, is that you've got to have a thirst to solve a problem. The second thing is you got to know that it can be solved. And even if you don't know how to do the stuff that other geeky people do to solve it, or other people do to solve it, you can still get it done. So Adrian says, what is Weka? So Weka is the University of Cato in New Zealand built a piece of software called Weka, and it does a bunch of data mining and machine learning algorithms, and it's worth looking at. Thanks for coming, Ruben. It's good to see you again. Yep. Okay, how do you all feel? Does anybody want to ask Linda what a goofball I was in college? No.
She was not a goofball. Hey, Mary Ann, I was going to play fudge. Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, of course. Fudge.
Yeah, I was trying to type it in, but so we are having our gala. We are good at attracting sponsorships, but bad at attracting alums to come to it. Mm-hmm. So my question to you is that because we get sponsorships, we have a lot of the sponsors coming to the gala. So they're coming to an event. Should we be considering them as prospects with more potential than we probably are?
Soliciting vendors is a tricky wicket, right? So if you talk to, if the sponsors come and then you ask them a month later to make a gift, you might lose the sponsorship. That's a tricky wicket. I might include in the sponsorship package, do you want to make an additional gift or annual fund? Okay. But you know what I'm hearing more than that is that you don't have a lot of alumni attending. But the question for you is, how many alumni are within 50 miles of where you are, right? You're just north of Chicago.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we have a lot, but you also know that our engagement with alums has been really bad.
So Linda and my alma mater has gone through some leadership changes and fluxes and that sort of thing. So but the next thing I would do is I would find a way to make it look like it's worth going. You have the advantage of that beautiful event space,
right?
With the windows are taller than you'd get at an old factory, right?
Yep.
So can you get, like, I miss seeing sunsets there. Can you get photos of people having a really good time in that gorgeous space, dressed up, looking special,
Right.
and rubbing elbows with the important people of Rockford, like Sunil Puri. What is Sunil's last name?
Puri. You're right.
Puri. Thank you.
Yeah.
They did he bought the business school, and I still don't remember his name.
Yeah.
Right. So that's
Yeah.
the next, because if the sponsors come and they're just looking at other sponsors, they're like, what are you doing to us? Because they want to get in front of alumni.
Okay. All right.
But then it begs the other question. One of the things that I talk about is that if you have an event on a Tuesday night, who's going to come? How old are their kids? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if the event is on a Saturday night, I have all day Saturday to find the babysitter. It's Saturday night. I don't feel like going to the movies again. Right. Basketball is done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what we have here in upstate New York is we have snow. So we don't even want to plan a celebration for our local AFP chapter, because the minute we do, it's going to snow 3 feet that day and we can't leave the house. So we just say, we don't plan a lot in January and February.
Yeah. Okay.
So do you want to do a spring fever event?
Right.
And
Interesting.
Phil, what is the name of that hall that I'm thinking of?
Burpee. No, Regents Hall. You're thinking
Regents
of Burpee,
Hall.
and
I
then
kept thinking
Regents Hall.
Regents Hall. Yeah, Regents Hall. You fill that up with sand and beach stuff.
Yeah.
You make Mai Tais. I'll go. No, I won't. I already said no to you for your gift.
I know. Did not. We're still you're being cultivated. Come on.
Yeah. How's this for cultivation, everybody? She comes to my presentation.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so I have 3:01 Eastern. So I will hang around for as long as anybody wants.